know we're getting ready for the membership meeting. Sorry. I'm Mary Kay Lombino. I work at the Francis Lehman Loeb Art Center at Vassar College, and I'm here in my role as co-chair of the Career Support Committee, along with Andalib Banta, who's Curator of European and American Art at the Allen Memorial Museum of Art at Oberlin College. And I just want to first say a big thank you to Andalib for her service on the committee for the last 3 years and as co-chair for the last 2 years. She showed me the ropes, and I've enjoyed being her co-chair for this past year, and I'm sad that she's rotating off, but I convinced her to stay on the committee, so I'm happy about that. But I am also here to welcome our new co-chair, effective this month, who is Michelle Jakes, Chief Curator at the Art Gallery of Greater Victoria in Canada. Thank you, Michelle, for your great services on your first year on the committee, and also for your willingness to take on this new role. Looking forward to working with you. So many of you know that the Career Support Committee's main goal and main project each year is the year-long mentorship program. So I want to tell you a little bit about the program. Also, you can find a lot about the program starting on page 51 in the program booklet. So if you want more details about it, there's a nice description and a mention of everyone who's participated thus far. We are about to enter our 4th year, and under the oversight of the Career Support Committee, the Mentorship Program, which is also generously supported by the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation, was developed in response to the need for guidance among junior colleagues to provide an opportunity for seasoned colleagues to share experiences and practical knowledge. And the AAMC staff, along with the support of the committee, provides a structured mentorship over a year's time that it now goes from May to May, starting at the conference each year, that ideally encourages the professional development of both mentee and mentor, focusing on guidelines for curatorial practice and overall career development. The Career Support Committee makes great efforts to carefully pair these applicants based on their individual needs and skills, sometimes their area of expertise, but not always. It's more about matching something that someone has to offer with something that someone is looking for. So now for my pitch. A critical part of this program is the ability for mentees and mentors to travel to meet each other at each other's institutions. And they also benefit from webinars. They each get 3 webinars per year that focus on specific needs and interests of the people participating. And so I want to acknowledge the outgoing class of all the participants this year for a fantastic year, and I'll name who the mentors and mentees are and their institutions, but if you can hold your applause to the end, that would help. So this year, mentor Susan Earle, who's the Curator of European and American Art at the Spencer Museum of Art at the University of Kansas, was the mentor for Amelia Layden, Associate Curator at the Haggerty Museum of Art at Marquette University. And Elizabeth Finch, the Lunder Curator of American Art at the Colby College Museum of Art, was the mentor for Whitney Tassie, Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art at the Utah Museum of Fine Arts at University of Utah. Allison de Lima Green, Curator of Contemporary and Special Projects at the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston, served as the mentor for Lauren Haynes, Associate Curator of the Permanent Collection at the Studio Museum of Harlem. Mitchell Merling, who's the Paul Mellon Curator and Head of the Department of European Art at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, served as a mentor for Caitlin Condell, Associate Curator of Drawings, Prints, and Graphic Designs at Cooper Hewitt Smithsonian Design Museum. And lastly, Lisa Rotondo McCord, Deputy Director of Curatorial Affairs and Curator of Asian Art at the New Orleans Museum of Art, was the mentor for Amanda Hellman, Curator of African Art at the Michael Carlos Museum at Emory University. Thank you all for participating this year. We had a great year. And now I'd like to announce the incoming class and welcome them all to the program and congratulate them all. We had lots of applicants, and it was a few contentious hours of deciding who would get the mentorships and menteeships this year. And I will also mention the liaison, because someone from the Career Support Committee serves as the liaison for each of these mentor pairings. And I'm going to mention them as well, because that's really the most volunteer aspect of these pairings, because there isn't any stipend for the liaisons as there is for the mentors. So this year we have mentee Elizabeth Athens, Assistant Curator of American Art at Worcester Art Museum. Her mentor will be Larry Nichols, William Hutton, Senior Curator of European and American Painting and Sculpture before 1900 at the Toledo Museum of Art. The liaison for that pairing is Christina Nielsen, Curator of the collection at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. The next mentee is Elise Gonzalez, Assistant Director and Acting Director of the Design and Architecture Museum in Santa Barbara, whose mentor will be Renee Barriot, Chief Curator and Curator of Contemporary Art at the McNay Museum of Art. And the liaison for that pairing is Michelle Jakes. The next mentee is Diana Greenwald, Curator of American Art at the Portland Art Museum, whose mentor will be April Watson, Curator of Photography at the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art. And the liaison is Paula Richter, Curator of Exhibitions and Research at the Peabody Essex Museum. And the last two pairings were both funded by the Emily Hall Tremaine Foundation. And the next mentee is Joanna Seisenwein, Senior Curator of Western Art at the Jordana Switzer Museum of Art, whose mentor is Graham Bocher, Chief Curator, and the William Carey Hulsey Curator of American Art at the Birmingham Museum of Art. And I am the liaison for that pairing. And then lastly, the mentee, Tamara Schenkenberg, Associate Curator at the Pulitzer Arts Foundation, whose mentor is Mark Scala, Chief Curator at the Frist Center for Visual Art, and the liaison is Claudia Rodriguez, Curator at the Frost Art Museum in Florida International University, and that one is also funded by the Tremaine Foundation. So the program thus far has been very rewarding and productive for its participants. And many of us have benefited from a professional mentor, even people who are in this room who've never gone through the program. I think it was mentioned this morning that we all have that one person who helped us out early on in our career. So we know how crucial this sharing of hard-won knowledge is for professional achievement. This invaluable exchange can only occur when we have mentors willing to provide their expertise and time. And each year we get many, many applicants for mentees, but we're having a hard time, we're falling a little bit short in terms of applicants for mentors. And I know many of you could be mentors and would be fabulous mentors. So I have invited a past mentor to give a sense of that role and hopefully convince some of you what a worthwhile and rewarding experience that would be. So I'm gonna ask Mitchell Merling to come up and tell a little bit about his experience this past year. Thank you, Mitchell.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Thank you, Mary Kay. Thank you, Andaleep. Thank you, Catherine. And thank you, Caitlin. Right? Wouldn't have happened without you. So it was with a bit of surprise and was with a bit of surprise when Catherine asked me if I would serve as mentor. A little bit of shock as I tried to figure out where I stood in the hierarchy of curatorships, but willing to serve I was as ever, and it was very rewarding on a number of levels and surprisingly easy. So I'm here to try and convince people at every stage of their career to serve as mentors. I know all of us have had very valuable experiences. My experience as mentor was a very valuable one because it forced me on a fairly regular basis to examine my own career, my own responsibilities as a curator when responding to Caitlin. It was very easy. It involved an initial setting up of our goals, of Caitlin's goals for herself. We set up, I think, 10 goals, the first goal of which was to set realistic goals. And we set realistic goals, which went beyond, coming into work on time. They were career goals, and we stuck to them, and we achieved them, and we're working on the next set of goals. With those goals in mind, we connected every 2 weeks on Friday morning at 10 a.m. and checked in and figured out where we were on those goals. And as Caitlin got on track, she often got me back on track too. And I achieved my goal of being a mentor and my easy other goal of being Caitlin's #1 fan, which was more than just, just being #1 fan, was involved often taking that 180-degree turn and looking at every situation from a positive angle. Right, Caitlin? And just taking that little bit of a step back and looking at things positively. And I think that helped both of us very, very much. And it was with great pleasure that we continue our friendship and relationship. And I invite you all to consider being mentors. Again, thank you all for the opportunity to speak. My 3 minutes are up. Thank you.